The house smelled like roasted garlic and butter the moment I stepped inside, the kind of smell that usually meant celebration. Vanessa loved hosting dinners, loved the attention, the compliments, the way people gathered around her kitchen island as if it were a stage. That night was no different. Soft music floated through the air, wine glasses already half empty, laughter bouncing off the walls like it belonged there. I stood near the doorway for a moment longer than necessary, adjusting my sleeves, reminding myself to breathe. Family dinners were minefields. They always had been. "Emily!" Vanessa called from across the room. "You made it. I was starting to think you'd fake another medical emergency to get out of this." A few guests laughed. I forced a smile and walked in. Vanessa had always been beautiful in a way that demanded forgiveness. Tall, confident, effortlessly charming. I was the quieter sister, the one people forgot was in the room until she said something inconvenient. Like reminding them that shellfish could kill me. As I greeted people, I felt the familiar tightening in my chest, not an allergic reaction, just anxiety. I scanned the spread on the counter automatically, my eyes trained over years of hospital visits and close calls. Seafood platter. Shrimp skewers. Crab legs on ice. My stomach dropped. "I thought you said you wouldn't serve shellfish," I whispered when I reached Vanessa. She waved her hand dismissively. "It's for everyone else. You're not the center of the universe." Before I could respond, she tapped her glass with a spoon. "Oh. Before we eat," she said brightly, "I need to warn everyone." Warn. Every muscle in my body stiffened. "My sister Emily," Vanessa continued, smiling as she gestured toward me, "has a deadly shellfish allergy." She paused for effect. "So please," she added, lowering her voice theatrically, "don't let her touch your plates. Or breathe too close. Or exist near seafood at all." Laughter erupted around the table. Someone said, "Wow, that must be exhausting." Another joked, "Guess she's not fun at seafood restaurants." I felt my face burn as if I'd been slapped. "It's not funny," I said, but my voice was drowned out by chuckles. Vanessa tilted her head, feigning innocence. "I'm just explaining. People should know. You always make such a big deal about it." A big deal. I remembered being 8 years old, my throat closing while she stood frozen, unsure if I was serious. I remembered paramedics, hospital lights, the fear in my mother's eyes. I remembered begging Vanessa years later to stop teasing me about it. She never did. "Relax," she said now, lowering her voice just enough to sound caring. "You're always so dramatic." That word landed harder than the laughter. Dramatic. As if fear were performance. As if survival were exaggeration. Across the room, I noticed a man watching quietly, his expression unreadable. He didn't laugh. He didn't smile. His gaze lingered on me for a moment longer than polite, as if he saw something the others didn't. I looked away. I told myself it was just another dinner. Another joke. Another small cut I'd learned to live with. I didn't know yet that this joke would draw blood. Dinner began the way disasters often do, quietly. The laughter settled into low conversation, chairs scraped against the floor, and plates were passed from hand to hand. I tried to focus on safe things, the warmth of my napkin, the clink of silverware, the steady rhythm of my breathing. I reminded myself that I had survived worse than an uncomfortable joke. Vanessa moved through the room like a queen inspecting her court, refilling glasses, accepting praise. "This smells incredible," someone said. "You always outdo yourself." She beamed. Then she disappeared into the kitchen and returned carrying bowls of soup, white porcelain, steam curling upward like a promise. "Homemade chicken soup," she announced. "Perfect way to start." She placed the bowls down one by one. When she reached me, she paused. For a split second, our eyes met. I searched her face for something, regret, guilt, even irritation. Instead, I saw calm. Confidence. Almost satisfaction. This one's safe, she said softly, so only I could hear. I made it especially for you. Relief washed over me, followed immediately by shame for ever doubting her. Maybe I had misjudged the moment earlier. Maybe she had embarrassed me, yes, but that was Vanessa. She liked control, not consequences. Around us, guests murmured their approval, spoons dipping into broth. I didn't want to be the problem again. I didn't want to ask a question that would make everyone sigh. So I lifted my spoon. The smell reached me first. Not chicken. Something sharp. Briny. Familiar in the most terrifying way. My hand froze midair. It's getting cold, Vanessa said lightly. I swallowed. One sip, I told myself. Just one. To prove I wasn't dramatic. To prove I trusted her. The liquid touched my tongue. My body reacted before my mind could. Crab. There was no mistaking it. The sweetness, the ocean bite, it detonated in my mouth like a memory I never wanted back. My throat tightened instantly, as if invisible fingers were closing around it. I dropped the spoon. I can't, I whispered, my voice already changing, thick and strained. Vanessa frowned. What? My chest burned. My lips tingled. Panic surged so fast it stole my words. There's shellfish, I managed. She laughed. Actually laughed. Oh my God, Emily, she said loudly enough for the table to hear. You didn't even swallow it. My vision blurred at the edges. I can't breathe, I said again, louder this time. Conversation stalled. Someone looked uncomfortable. Another guest glanced at Vanessa, uncertain. She rolled her eyes. She does this sometimes. It's anxiety. She works herself up. I stood, knocking my chair back, clutching the table for balance. My hands were shaking violently now, skin flushing hot and tight. This isn't a joke, I said, though it came out broken. Vanessa's smile thinned. I didn't put crab in your soup. She leaned closer, her voice low and sharp. Stop embarrassing me. That was the moment the truth hit harder than the allergy itself. This wasn't a mistake. This was a test. A punishment. A lesson she wanted me to learn in front of an audience. My throat closed another inch. The room began to spin. And while Vanessa watched, waiting for me to back down like I always did, someone else at the table stood up, suddenly, urgently, his chair crashing to the floor. But by then, my body was already betraying me. Just like my sister had. The room fractured into noise and motion, but through it all, one voice cut cleanly through the chaos. Move. It wasn't loud, but it carried authority, the kind that didn't ask to be obeyed. I felt hands steady me as my knees buckled. Someone pushed a chair aside. Air felt thick, heavy, as if I were breathing through soaked fabric. Every inhale burned. Every exhale rattled. I need space, the man said again, sharper now. She's in anaphylaxis. That word should have terrified me. Instead, it grounded me. Someone finally saw it. Someone finally believed me. He knelt in front of me, eyes level with mine. Calm. Focused. Not panicked, not curious. Prepared. Emily, he said gently, already knowing my name from the introductions earlier. Look at me. Don't try to talk. I nodded weakly. I heard him speaking to someone, 911, I realized dimly, his voice precise, clipped, as if he'd done this before. Yes. Female, late 20s. Known shellfish allergy. Airway compromised. I'm administering epinephrine now. Vanessa's voice cut in, shrill. Wait, what are you doing? You can't just. I can, he said, without even looking at her. A sharp pressure in my thigh. A brief sting. Then warmth spread through my body like fire under ice. The EpiPen. I gasped, really gasped, for the first time since the soup touched my tongue. The relief was instant but incomplete, like surfacing from deep water only to realize you were still far from shore. The man kept one hand steady on my shoulder, the other holding the phone. "Stay with me," he said. "You're doing great." Around us, the dinner party had frozen. Faces blurred into pale ovals. Someone whispered, "Is she okay?" Someone else said Vanessa's name over and over, like that might undo what was happening. Vanessa stood near the table, her arms crossed tightly, her face pale but stubborn. "She's exaggerating," she insisted. "She always does this." That's when he finally looked up at her. His expression didn't hold anger. It held judgment. "I watched her react within seconds of ingestion," he said evenly. "I smelled crab in that soup from 3 feet away. And I watched you tell her it was safe." Silence swallowed the room. The sirens were faint in the distance now. "Who are you?" Vanessa demanded, her voice cracking just slightly. He rose to his feet slowly, still positioned between her and me, as if shielding me from something dangerous, which, I realized, he was. "My name is Daniel Reeves," he said. "I run Reeves Biotech." A ripple moved through the guests. Recognition. Shock. Phones lowered. Eyes widened. Vanessa's mouth opened, then closed. Daniel didn't soften. "My company develops emergency response medical devices. I've spent 20 years watching what happens when people don't take allergies seriously." He looked down at me again, his voice gentler. "You saved her life by acting fast," the operator said through the phone, audible now. "Continue monitoring until paramedics arrive." Daniel nodded. "Understood." I focused on breathing. On the weight lifting from my chest, millimeter by millimeter. On the strange safety of having someone else take control when I no longer could. Vanessa's voice shook. "It was just a joke." Daniel's eyes flicked back to her, cold and steady. "Jokes don't require ambulances," he said. The sirens grew louder. And in that moment, as strangers gathered and truth began to surface, I understood something clearly for the first time. My sister had underestimated 2 things. My will to survive. And the man at the end of the table. The ambulance lights painted the ceiling in pulsing red and white as the paramedics strapped me onto the gurney. My throat was still sore, my body trembling with the aftershocks of adrenaline, but I was breathing. Really breathing. Each inhale felt like a quiet victory. Vanessa hovered near the doorway, her confidence completely stripped away. She tried to follow, insisting there had been a misunderstanding, that she felt awful. No one listened. Not the paramedics. Not the guests who now looked at her with something close to horror. Daniel stayed beside me until the doors closed. "You're going to be okay," he said, squeezing my hand once, firm, grounding. "I'll make sure they know exactly what happened." At the hospital, the truth settled in like an undeniable weight. Doctors confirmed it, crab protein, present in dangerous concentration. Not cross-contamination. Not an accident. Intentional. The word echoed in my head louder than the monitors beeping beside me. Vanessa came the next day, eyes red, voice trembling as she explained how out of hand everything had gotten. She said she didn't think I'd actually react. She said she was sorry if she'd hurt me. I listened quietly. For the first time in my life, I didn't rush to soften the moment. I didn't reassure her. I didn't make myself smaller to preserve peace. "I told you," I said simply. Every time. She left without another word. What followed wasn't loud or dramatic. It didn't need to be. Daniel gave a statement. So did 3 guests, including one who worked in food safety. The medical report spoke clearly. The texts Vanessa had sent earlier that week, joking about my imaginary allergy, didn't help her case. Her employer put her on leave. Then let her go. Friends distanced themselves. Invitations stopped coming. No shouting. No confrontation. Just consequences. As for me, I healed. Slowly, then fully. Daniel checked in occasionally, never crossing a line, never positioning himself as a hero. Over coffee weeks later, he admitted he'd grown up with a brother who had severe allergies. "I know what it looks like when people don't believe you," he said. "I did too." Vanessa never apologized again. Not truly. But she never mocked me either. In fact, she stopped calling altogether. And for the first time, that silence didn't hurt. It felt earned. Revenge isn't always about watching someone fall. Sometimes it's about standing upright while the truth does the work for you. I still carry my EpiPen. I always will. But I no longer carry the burden of proving my pain is real. That night taught me something precious. Survival is strength. Boundaries are power. And sometimes, the sweetest revenge isn't served hot or cold. It's served with justice, dignity, and the quiet knowledge that you lived.